Hello there. I'd like to share with you a great British staple. It's apple crumble. Now this video is designed for people who are coeliacs, but also people who are suffering from lack of energy or lack of time. I make up batches. In here is half fat to flour. You can use plain or self-raising, although the recipes will say plain, I don't mind. I use a gluten-free flour. You can either make that up using a mixture of rice flour, corn flour, potato flour, or you can buy a commercial one. And I have to say, I just buy a commercial gluten-free flour. You can use a vegan fat, or you can use butter or a margarine, a hard block. And I make it easy by grating it into the flour and then just rubbing it through my fingers until you have breadcrumb type texture. Now at that point you can freeze it, or you can add very cold water until you get a dough and you've got pastry. But today I've added sugar, so half fat to flour. The recipes say half sugar to flour in terms of the weight ratio, but I find that a bit sweet, and so what I do is I put a little bit less, and then depending on the fruit I'm using I will adjust. Now, I'll use it fresh and I'll show you what I'm going to do, but then everything else goes in to a really good quality freezer bag. That'll last in the freezer 2-3 months. And so when I next want to do some, I can either take fresh fruit like apples, pears, apricots, pretty well any fruit that you like. Although I would say that things like strawberries and raspberries and gooseberries make a lot of juice, so be careful of that. You can use frozen. In here I've got half frozen, and that's some of the falls from my apple tree. And then I've used a tin of commercial pie filling. If you've got no energy, just use a tin of pie filling. Use your frozen crumble from the top, and you've got a pudding, pop it in the oven. The crumble can go from frozen, not a problem. Just allow an extra few moments. Oven, depends on your oven. I go to 175, which I think is about gas mark 5 or 6. And let it make sure that the fruit is cooked through and that the flour and fat topping is cooked through. If it's getting a bit brown, turn the oven down or put a piece of foil over. Now, when I'm doing this, I simply spoon the crumble mix over the fruit and make sure there's a good covering. Some people like their crumble thicker than others. I like a really good fruit to crumble ratio, but that's down to you. It's very much a question of taste. So if I show you the side of the dish, that's why I've used a glass one. I've got apple at the bottom and I've got a cherry pie filling at the top. Into the apple, if you want a plain apple, that's fine. But if not, then sometimes I'll add raisins, perhaps a bit of cinnamon, sometimes a jar of mincemeat. It really depends what I've got hanging about. Now on here, I have got grated, commercially bought, just ordinary store-bought marzipan. Halfway through the cooking, I will crumble that on top of the crumble, and it just gives it a really nice almondy finish, and it goes very crispy. You can put a few oats. If you're a coeliac, please remember that oats are not naturally gluten-free. You need to have washed gluten-free oats. Sometimes I'll put a few seeds on, but I tend to put seeds like the marzipan about halfway through the cooking, otherwise they tend to get very burnt very quickly. Once they're cooked, you can do these in batches so you don't waste oven heat. Once they're cooked, then you can simply let them cool right down, cover them in a couple of layers of cling film, and they will freeze beautifully. Let them defrost when you want to use them, pop them in a hot oven, not too hot, and just let them heat right through. In England, we like our custard, so we serve it with custard. You can serve it with ice cream, you can serve it with cream. Or if you're my family, you want a bit of everything. So I hope that's helped. Give it a try. But remember, if you freeze your crumble and you use frozen fruit that you've already prepared or tinned fruit, you can have a pudding that everybody enjoys, and it will take you literally 2 minutes. Enjoy.